First impressions are everything to fighting games. So this is talking about like the barrier of entry again. So I more or less agree with Max on like a lot of things when it comes to fighting games. So we'll see where this goes.
Let's go!
I will say this, Maximilian is one of the best nuanced fighting game creators out there. He's very nuanced about his opinions for the most part.
This has been a topic I've been wanting to really talk about for a long time. And we sort of briefly glossed over it on the casual conversation, like what the hell is a casual? And I sort of talked about how my space in past like 10, 15 years of being a part of the fighting game community and just fandom of fighting games is not to get people from being advanced to pro players or even intermediate to advanced players. What I'm getting at is that has deeply changed my relationship with fighting games in general. Not to mention the fact that it isn't me trying to get you into only the thing that I love. Even though I could not become the best Xrd player, clearly, that was a game that I wanted to show people that maybe I can bridge the gap for you, you know? Maybe I can help you get from one spot to the next. And that felt really good. That making people try to get into this stuff in some way feels really good, instead of just making them become high-skilled players to even higher skilled players. That boils down my perspective of fighting games changing a lot. And this is where the topic of this video is. Fighting games need to be good video games. And I don't mean that fighting game content overall, that's kind of a different thing. Having enough casual content to keep people in, like good story modes and good arcade modes and good tutorials and all that kind of stuff. The way I engage with this medium has changed a lot, especially when developers are proposing new concepts and new ideas to you. I think that there are some issues with a lot of fighting games where if that game in the first few rounds has not directly communicated to the player, this stuff is cool, that there is a cool thing that you get to do in this game and have fun with that is effectively different or similar to other games that may have been really interesting before. Fighting games need to be good ass video games, my dude. Even if anybody's jumping into this and they're like, damn, look at that, I want to play that shit, in the exact same ways that fighting games engaged people back in the arcades in the 90s. That has not changed. Even Street Fighter 6, in the first hour, I had some criticisms of the first hour, but I could not be bothered by any of some of those criticisms because visually captivating, all this crazy slow-mo, all these moments, all this build-up. The first time I played Street Fighter 6 was ridiculously impressive. And until I played people that really showed me how to use mechanics within a couple of hours, it opened up even more. It was like, whoa, this isn't just Street Fighter 5 2. This is a lot more. This is a lot bigger of a game that builds on.
I stand to this day that Fighters and Skullgirls does this perfectly. And both of them does it for very two different reasons, right? So Fighters does it in the more bombastic way, right? Where it's like the supers are crazy. There's mechanics that get you in immediately, like super dash. You have tagging that's very like intuitive, very easy to do. You know, there's plenty of content to do outside of just fighting, right? There's the story modes, there's arcade mode. There's plenty of tutorials to teach you how to play the game, right? So like Fighters does it like the more bombastic way, like especially on the gameplay department, where like the visuals, the sound effects, the cutscenes and stuff like that. Whereas Skullgirls does it more of the mechanical end, where it obviously the art style is very unique, very good, everything runs smoothly, right? But Skullgirls is probably like the perfect game where it's like, I don't know what the fuck is happening, but it's cool, right? Like, I don't know any other game, to me personally, that I watched as a noob. I didn't know what was going on, but I was like, that shit is cool and I want to play it. Like, I don't think that's ever happened to me outside of Skullgirls. Like, other fighting games, I kind of had to maneuver my way and like watch like a video or two about like how to play the game before I'm like, oh, maybe I can like engage with it. But no, I saw Skullgirls because at the time I was watching it around like season 2 of Fighters, where I was kind of getting a little bit bored, and so I started watching like Skullgirls like pro players, and I was like, this game is crazy. I don't know what's happening, but I need to play it. And so like Skullgirls, like for me, shines more mechanically because like you have so many like different things that can happen, and so it just entices people even though they don't know what's going on, because like all the characters do very specific things. There's like very like nuance when it comes to like, you know, the IPS system, the way assists work. There's plenty of like combo variety. Like there's plenty of rejumps, OTGs. There's like resets. Like Skullgirls like mechanically is so dense that like even if it didn't have the art style that it did, which definitely helps out a lot, I still think it's very enticing to watch, even if you don't know what's happening. Skullgirls is the game that FGC claims it wants. Insane execution, no hand-holding, complex mechanics, can tag or solo, but the FGC pretends it doesn't exist because they want Street Fighter 4 Ultimate. Also, when you say FGC, you mean social media. Like, yeah, I know what you mean. Actually, I probably shouldn't say that. I was gonna say hot take. I was gonna say people probably don't play Skullgirls FGC wide. Well, even then that's not true actually. People like sexy women. What am I talking about? I was about to say it's probably because like some of the character designs, but I was like, people love sexy women. What the fuck am I talking about? No, I don't know why Skullgirls didn't catch on. I'm gonna be so for real. It literally has everything that people want. Like you said, complex mechanics, unique character designs, like freedom when it comes to combos, execution. You can tag or solo. Like I don't know what it is about Skullgirls that doesn't entice people. I don't know. The game isn't hard to pick up either. It's very easy to like pick up and play. Like you're not gonna do great at it, but like you can pick up a character like Fukua or Double or Cerebella and like cook people within an hour. So like I don't know.
On that foundation, it grew within my first day playtime. What I'm getting at is that all of these crazy in-depth mechanics and cool things and all the stuff that gets put into fighting games, if that stuff doesn't become obvious that this is super cool within the first 30 minutes of you playing the game, within the first few rounds of you playing the game, then I think that game is sort of like failed. Its design as a game, just in general, just as a normal video game that engages the audience, I fall off really hard. Just in general, dude. This doesn't even apply to fighting games. It applies to like all games in general. Like if this game doesn't hook me early on, then I don't. Then so.
Yeah, a game's hook is very important. A game's hook is very important. It really is the game for motherfuckers who say modern games killed the FGC, but they don't support it. Yeah, I don't know why Skullgirls doesn't entice people, honestly. I mean, one of the reasons why, like, it's my favorite fighting game of all time. The reason why I stopped playing it is because the player base isn't high enough. For me personally, like matchmaking is not like the most easiest thing to interact with because there's so few people. And also just because because of it being so niche, there weren't many people around my skill level to interact with. So like even when I did like find someone online, there were like people that been playing the game for like years, and like they would like stomp me into the ground. And so like I just didn't have fun playing with people just outside of my skill range, and so I stopped playing. But it had nothing to do with the game itself. The game itself is nearly perfect to me, but it's just like, you know, the player base just wasn't there at the time. That's why you boot up Under Night, because Sanford Kelly said, "Nah, too much scrubby shit." One time, no one even looks at the game. Yeah, that's the perspective that a lot of anime games just have in general, and it's just because the skill floor for a lot of anime games is less demanding than other games. Like I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think anime fighting games is the good between like quote unquote traditional fighting games and arena fighters, right? They're like the classic like Budokai Tenkaichi games and like the like Pokken tournament game, like those kind of games, and then like Street Fighter and like Mortal Kombat. Like anime games are like the between genre, right? Where it's like it has like the beginner like floor level of arena fighters, but it has the skill ceiling of like the traditional fighters. And so like you get to like this weird mesh of players where it's like the anime players like it, but like the ceiling is so high that like majority of the time they won't reach it, and so therefore it doesn't entice people in the long run. But at the same time, the skill ceiling for anime games on average just aren't as high as other games. So like the traditional players are like, this game is scrubby, so like they won't even bat an eye at it and like promote it or like get people into it. And so like you're kind of like stuck in like this weird middle ground, you know?
Something about it just isn't gonna do for me. Even Tekken 8 and its crazy ass, insanely oppressive gimmicks and shit was proposing some pretty crazy ideas. Visually, that game was looking a lot different than the other Tekkens. What characters were doing was much more fantastical than a lot of the shit the other characters are doing. It was pushing the Tekken 7 aspects way further. So visually speaking, it was like, damn, this game's crazy, dude. This Tekken 8 game is crazy. Maybe we gotta tone it down a little bit, but it's kind of nuts that we gave characters even more things than they've ever had. That was, I won't lie, pretty appealing. So that grabbed me with something. It got its hooks in me. That's the spot that I am the most captivated by fighting games in general. That's the spot where I feel like I am the most critical of fighting games, and I'm able to communicate that to developers over the years when I play early builds of things, of whatever games it might be over the past like 5 to 8 years of being in this situation. If there's something about this game that doesn't grab me like immediately, I can communicate what's not doing it. Is it the hit stun? Is it the pushback? Is it the fact that specials don't feel special enough? Is it the fact that supers don't feel unique or special enough? Is it the fact that things are too long? Like all that kind of stuff. I think it is exemplary in fighting games. In the fighting game genre, in the fighting game aspect, I think it is way harsher that if that fighting game doesn't do something visually captivating, immediately appealing, I want to try this, I want to play that, wow, that looks so cool. If it doesn't give you some sort of like childlike wonder in the first like few minutes of you just even witnessing its existence, then I feel like it's going to be very hard for that game to engage a larger audience. Like,
I agree with that.
It's going to be a lot more difficult for that game to find an audience, to discover people, to discover new players, or really engage with people that are not just hardcore fighting game folks. That is my perspective on fighting games. That's where I'm coming from in every regard now. Now my entire focus is not as wide as it used to be, where it's just like, oh man, is this just going to be a great game for hardcores and a great game for casuals? Does this game even functionally serve its purpose as a video game? Does it even feel really good as a game? I'm sorry, I hate to use the example.
I will say this, that is important, but it also the game also thrives on what they do afterwards, because I think DNF Duel, and as you know, I'm a huge DNF Duel fan, it has a really good hook. Every character is very unique. Like the supers are crazy. The mechanics look really easy to use, but like also has depth within it. But the way it was handled, it just guaranteed that the game was gonna fail, right? With like the parent company not allowing like DLC within like the first month. Like we had to wait an entire year for the first DLC character. Like not like the whole season pass to be done. No, the first character. And we didn't even get an announcement for the first DLC like until like what, like 6 to 8 months after the game came out. So like it's like there was no like actual plan for like post-launch. Because honestly, I think like the people that made like the parent company behind DNF didn't expect the game to pop off like that. They just thought, oh, it's just gonna be a burner game, and like it was just gonna be something in our back catalog. But like the game kind of did decently well at launch. They had a lot of players interested, and so like when that happened, I feel like they tried to either they just weren't committed to like actually like giving it support, or the backlash was so great that they were like, we have to do something, right, to stay face. And so that led to like, the DLC character Spectre coming out like a year after the game came out. And so like the game has a good hook. It's just that the developers either weren't ready or just weren't willing to do stuff beyond that, you know? So first impressions and like a good hook is important, but like the plan beyond that is also important as well. Thank you everyone for making it this far into the video. Just gonna take a quick break to do some shoutouts. First, shoutouts to my friends' channels. Please consider checking them out as they provide a variety of content, so at least one of them will have something that you'll enjoy. Second, if you live near the York, PA area, please head down to Ready Up Gaming Lounge. It's a place where gamers from every genre can come together and play in a comfortable and chill environment. They are open from 11 AM to 8 PM every day and hold dedicated events every week. For my channel's interest, they run Fighting Fridays, where for $5.30, you can play a multitude of fighting games with various players. They have big games like Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but they also have niche games like Dragon Ball FighterZ, Guilty Gear Strive, Rivals of Aether 2, and more. Finally, shout out to all my supporters on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. You guys really make doing content fun and worth pursuing. Alright, back to the video.
Of the Bleach game. Granted, it's probably great in many ways, and people really like it. My dude, the movement felt incredibly bad. Just moving around with characters and like pressing buttons felt really bad.
Yeah, I don't like the new Bleach game,
make a
personally.
Connection in that
the movement in the game
was
feels like
really
shit.
difficult because it was the antithesis of some of the things that I really enjoy. I'm not even talking about the depth of gameplay. It felt heavy, dude.
Yeah,
like,
I didn't like playing the Bleach game. I played it with Pretty one time. Well, actually, the only time I actually played it with him. And like, even after I session, I was like, bro, the movement feels so bad in this game, bro. It feels like shit to move. That was like my big, like, I've said this countless times, but movement in a fighting game matters so much. If the movement doesn't feel good, I'm not gonna play it. Like, if the no matter what the combos are, no matter what neutral feels like if I cannot move and it feels really bad to even like make a step forward, like I'm not gonna stick around. Because movement affects everything. Movement affects how you play neutral. Movement affects how you do combos. Movement affects how you engage with the opponent from all manners of angles. Like, if you can't jump in this game, okay, what can you do? If you can't sidestep, what can you do? Like, if like sidestepping requires like resources, how does that affect the game? Like, if movement isn't enticing to me, I just won't play it, like, at all. That's one of the reasons why like I'm so like wish-washy on Street Fighter 6, because like Drive Rush is fun, right? But like the movement itself of Street Fighter just doesn't entice me. Like, I'm not a fan of just walking like side to side and then like just poking at long range, right? That's just not my thing. I like to be able to move. I like air dashes and jumping and super jumps. Like, I like movement. I like movement. That's my thing.
That is coming at the behest of this big issue right at the forefront. And it's like, yeah, you can learn to get better at that. You can learn to get way better at these things, but that's always going to be there. To be honest, this has been a criticism I've had with several games, from like the Injustice series, Injustice 2 especially, from MK11 right at the start. Even Mortal Kombat 1 has a lot of issues, even though it proposes a lot of really fun stuff. I got into MK1 because I'm a hardcore fighting game guy, and they do some really cool hardcore fighting game things in that game, especially now. But it ultimately fails at a first impression because just doing the most basic thing, like calling your assist to help you in attacking, feels bad. Fighting and pressing buttons and jumping and pressing feels kind of rough, even compared to the other NRS games, which kind of have a barrier of entry of this sort of feels rough to get into, you know? That's really where my ass comes in and starts having a lot of opinions. I start to get very critical of my opinions on how things feel, even at the beginning of Guilty Gear Strive, with how they were approaching previous Guilty Gears going into the new one, even though there
Oops. Sorry about that.
There's a lot of really fun stuff in that shit. My ass comes from a very critical reception of just how does this game feel as a game to new players? How does it feel just to press buttons and do things? And does it propose new, crazy, engaging ways to do that, just in general? And it feels like, in some situations, like a whole bunch of games are sort of like scared of doing that stuff at the time, scared to try new, crazy ideas, scared to try different things. And in my opinion, it's what makes fighting games great. Proposing that a game in general just has a great competitive high level. I think Mortal Kombat 1 is the best example of that because I've spent a lot of time with the game, proposing that actually the high level of this game is really cool, but you got to get through all of this crazy bullshit to get there. You're going to have to get through all of this really aggressive feeling problems before you get there. And it's like, yeah, man, that's really difficult. It's really difficult to sell somebody on this when you know that they have to go through the learning process of just like, I gotta put up with this shit, bro. That's my kind of big take on fighting games and how first impressions in fighting games are really important. How about DNF Duel? The best example, dude. DNF Duel proposed the coolest idea ever. Mega powerful specials. So everyone was big loving that game at the start in the first betas. Everyone was big loving it until we realized that actually you just have to hold all this shit because the mobility is ass. And that was already a criticism that we had at the beginning that, man, running feels bad. Why does the movement feel like shit when everything else feels so much fun? Like, what is happening? So yes, like from the very beginning,
me personally, I don't have a issue with the speed of DNF Duel. I feel like it's more in the character abilities where the movement really shines. And obviously, some characters can move better than others, right? But I wonder if he's talking about like the dashing in the game, because like the walk speed and the run speed for characters varies a lot. So I'm wondering like what is he talking about in particular? No air block in DNF was probably a mistake. Yeah. I'm trying to think of a situation where that actually kind of mattered. Cause here's the thing, like people, honestly, I didn't even know that was a thing, because usually whenever you jump in the air in DNF Duel, you're usually compensating that with like a special move that like usually covers yourself from like anti-airs. So like for like example, like if you jump as like Crusader, like you can throw a fireball down to like stop people from anti-airing you, or like you can like or you have like a barrier like you get at like low health to like stop people from like anti-airing you. I can't really think if there's like unblockables, like aerial unblockables in a game. There's probably one. I'm trying to think. I can't really think of one right now. A lot of characters had unreactable 50-50s where chicken blocking would really be useful. Yeah, that too. Yeah, I remember that. All DPs couldn't be challenged by air buttons. Yesence? Because like you can safe jump in most cases, and I mean that is true. That's one of the reasons why Inquisitor's DP was so broken. It's probably one of the best in the game, because like not only can you not air block it, but it's also a cutscene. So like if you run into like a troubleshooter who has like broken grenade Oki, you can just like DP into a cutscene and the grenade won't explode on you. So like that was kind of broken, but like I don't know. There's like plenty of characters with safe jumps, so like I don't know if that's a big issue for me. I don't know. But it definitely is a thing. Yeah. I think about it, yeah. But yeah, air blocking, yeah.
Of DNF Duel, that felt like a game that should have been moving at twice the speed, but they had attacks and all this big crazy shit that was huge, and it felt like we're in a Marvel versus Capcom. Every character's Virgil and shit, but nobody can move around. It was kind of a big problem. We gave that game credit because it did feel good to do those things with really big, powerful moves and specials, but it clearly had an issue. That's kind of the thing. I will be the most critical with fighting games. Is this game promoting something interesting and cool and engaging? Or is it just sort of like being very careful? Is it being very esports, you know? That could be kind of a thing that we realize now, that, man, the games are trying to be a little bit too safe. Sometimes we just gotta let it rock. Sometimes like maybe intentionally putting dirt into a game isn't maybe as generally fascinating as discovering dirt. Personally speaking, games like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 were not designed to have dirt. They gave characters a lot of powerful tools, but what people eventually found out and how good it was discovered by players. People figured out how gross some of that game could be. Plank dashing was not intentional. Characters having infinite hit stun on some moves while the rest of the roster follows a rule set that maybe some characters don't apply to, that was not intentional, dude. So much of that stuff was not designed to be that way. Players discovered that stuff. Players figured that shit out. And that discovery is what made that game fascinating. It's what made that game cool. That's why I deeply feel that first impressions of fighting games is sort of a thing that I feel like I have a little bit of an expertise in that situation, and just identifying that this game's gonna pop off, bro. You can see why any rando and even any hardcore fighting game fan is gonna look at that shit and go, damn, I'm into this shit.
Yeah, really good. Really good. I agree with pretty much everything. The DNF duel one, I kind of disagree. I feel like the movement in that game was more character based. But even at its base, like run level speed and like dash blocking, like it didn't feel bad to me. Maybe it's because like I'm used to it like in fighters, where, because like even then in fighters, like sometimes you just have to like run forward, like you're not constantly jumping all the time. Maybe like if I was like a very jumpy player, like I wouldn't like DNF as much, but it was like, to me it was pretty clear. It was pretty clear that DNF was a very grounded character based like fighting game, and so like some characters were just gonna move better than others, you know. And like my character, for example, like she didn't move like the fastest. She was kind of like in the middle of the road, like in terms of like base speed. But like to compensate for that, she had like really big moves, and like she can apply like Oki like at pretty much anywhere on screen. So like once I got in, you know. But like there were other characters whose movement speed isn't good, like Crusader, but like he could box you in, and that was his type of movement. And then there's other characters like TRUEDBZMaster, who's legit like a Dragon Ball character, where he can like air dash, like he can jump really high. His movement speed was really fast, and like he can rush you down. It's like the movement is character based in that game, right? Rather than like it being in the system. The role not being implemented on release was kind of weird. Well, roll was in the game. The problem is that I don't think it was frame 1. I still don't think it's frame 1 when it came out. But you couldn't roll forward. That was the thing. You can only roll backwards at launch for DNF, which was an issue because and I also think it wasn't frame 1. So like if you didn't have like a really good DP, you were kind of screwed if you ran out of meter. Yeah. So like if you didn't have a really good DP, you were kind of screwed. And it also guard cancels being really bad too. Yeah. I don't think guard cancels got that much of a change. I think that's one of the only mechanics in DNF that didn't change all that much, because it still costs 100 meter to use it, and I don't even think it hard knockdowns. Like I think it's still a soft knockdown. They buffed guard cancels range for some of the worst characters. Oh, okay. I must have missed that. But yeah. I think DNF Duel is a good game though, with all its faults. You know, I find it's one of my more fun games. All right, it's almost 1 o'clock, so we'll do one more video